Hello and welcome to Throttle Therapy RC. Today I have a Trx4m here that I use as a mud truck, and it's coming up on spring, coming up on mud truck season. I'm going to show you guys how to do a complete full service of a 4M. That includes changing bearings, greasing everything, just giving her an overall inspection to make sure that she will run good for whatever you can use it for me, for mud. Let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take off the wheels, tires, all that, and inspect the hexes, clean them out, and just get them out of the way. Okay, now that I got the tires out of the way here, you can see that there's a whole bunch of grass and all that got caught up in here. Most common on the mud trucks, but if you have a normal crawler, occasionally you will get stuff wrapped up in behind your hexes here in your wheel. It's best take off your wheel hex there, and it is definitely better to remove that debris out of your wheels. It'll save your RC's motor in the long run. Now I'm just going to do that to all four. Now that they're all cleaned off here, I did notice that there's a whole bunch of grease on each of these axles, which is showing that the water did get in by these rear ends here and is pushing the grease out, which is not good for the longevity of your axles and gears and all that stuff. So I will start off with the rear end here. I will tear it down, starting off with these two screws here. I don't know if you can see them too well, but there's two screws, one up top, one on the bottom. Those have to be removed with a 1.5 millimeter Allen, and these are there to hold in the bearing, which keeps the axle in place and keeps it from sliding out. So I'll just get this last one out here. Then I will be able to remove this axle out of here, and you could see on this axle, or you should be able to, the grease on here is brown and really dark green in some spots, which is not good because I use blue marine grease. You can see it real good in that spot there. That's showing that they've got mud and water and grit in your rear end. That's definitely what should be cleaned out. This is what happened just after two batteries of mudding, which is really not good for it. Okay, and now you just repeat the same steps on the other side. One screw here, and there's also a 1.5 millimeter Allen. They're real little screws, so be careful not to lose them. I have a special tray set off to the side here, where I'm setting all the parts I'm taking off in, and all the greased parts, like inside the axles, I am putting them over on a piece of paper towel. So now that you got those removed, you can come over here, and I like to remove this upper link, which is going to be a 1.5 millimeter Allen right up there, and that'll remove both of the upper control links here, which will make it so that your axle will be able to rotate freely. Just like that. Now you come down here. I have aftermarket Enduro drive shafts, but your stock ones will also have a bolt right here that you will have to remove. It should be a 1.5 millimeter again, even on the stock ones. And now you can just slide your drive shaft out. Set her off to the side, out of the way. Now your axle can rotate freely towards the back here, which will make it a lot easier to get at these four screws, which are hidden way in back here. Way down in there. There's two on the bottom, and two up top, and those are all 1.5 millimeters too. that they are all out, go ahead and flip your axle back over. Take your fingernail underneath, and you could just pop your diff cover off. And yet again, look in there, you can see that, yes, that grease is not the best. This here does have a little bit more of the blue hue to it, but you can see that, yes, some water and mud did get in this rear end, and will take the life off the gears if I left it. So it's very important you do your maintenance. And you can see on this axle, there's a lot of the blue junk in there. But because you removed your gears beforehand, you could just take your pliers, I like to. And there you go. I'm going to grab a piece of paper towel here, and I'm just going to clean off these parts. And just wipe the grease off them, get them to be a little bit cleaner, so that the only grease that's going to be on there is the new grease. There's going to be none of the contaminated grease. And it doesn't need to be perfect, just clean her up a wee bit. Wipe off your bearings a wee bit too. Make sure you do it to all of your axles, all your parts. Wipe off the shafts there. Take your pinion gear, just wipe that off. Clean off your diff cover. Yet again, doesn't need to be perfect. Just give her a rough wipe down. And that shows all the dirt and mud that was in there. A little bit better than even on the parts. That's not good. So now you can go about reassembling after wiping out this inside the rear end here. Drop a finger in there, wipe around a wee bit. Now you can take your pinion gear here and just shove it back in its home. Be careful to keep an eye on these outer bearings too. Make sure it doesn't pop out with the pinion gear. I put my finger on the back of it while pressing in to keep everything where it's supposed to be. And now, before you install your rear spur gear here, ring gear, just give these bearings a little spin. Make sure that they're rolling smoothly, that there's no grinding, binding, doesn't feel like there's any dirt, debris in them. And then you can reinstall it, just make sure it is pressed all the way into its home. Now you can use your grease. I like to use this marine grease, especially in the mud trucks, because it's water resistant and won't wash off as easily. It'll help keep your parts protected a lot longer. So you just take it. You don't need a lot. In fact, that might even been too much. Let's give her a little spin, just to get that grease everywhere, over everything right away, so you're not running any parts dry. Now you can take your differential cover, slide her back into place there, flip your axle again, and you can insert your screws, all 4 of them. And all these screws are the same length, so it does not matter where you put them. So I like to tighten them down in a little bit of a crisscross pattern here, just to make sure that nothing gets bound up inside the rear end. It really doesn't matter that much, especially on something this small, but it's a good habit to get into once you start working on some larger vehicles. There we go. Now that your rear end, your diff cover is put back on, you can come back up here and reinstall your upper links. And take your bolt. Just hold some light pressure on it. And move around the link. Until it slides in. You don't need them both perfect right away. Just work on one at a time. And there. Now you can take your Allen, reinstall that. No need to over tighten it. You will strip out this. Snug is all you need. And now reinsert your axles, make sure they seat in all the way. And you could take your little axle screws, I like to put them on the end of my Allen here, and it is not magnetic, so anyone at home can do this. And yet again, just snug it up, because you're putting metal into plastic here, and with very small threads, and it is very, very easy to over tighten these and cause them to strip. And here, you can see it keeps falling off. Make sure you press her in there real good. And roll it on. Just snug it on up. Flip her over. And do the same thing on this other side here. Okay, and now that you got all these in, you can reinstall your drive shaft. You do have to be careful though. You notice how the universal joint on this is facing this direction. Make sure that you install your other end facing the same direction to make it synced up. Otherwise you'll wind up with chopping, and it just puts unnecessary stress on the drive line. So just like that, you want it so when you pick it up, this part of the drive shaft is moving, not anything else. It can be a little annoying at times to make sure it's all in sync like that, but it is very important that you do make sure that it is all properly aligned. Now that you got that in, take your screw, press her on in, and slowly tighten it down. And even though I'm running metal drive shafts, steel drive shafts on this, I'm still only snugging down that screw there. That's all it needs. It won't back out very easily, or if at all, and it'll prevent anything from snapping or stripping and becoming a whole mess and expensive. It's not worth it over tightening stuff. just snug. And now that the rear end is all back together here, I'm going to give her a quick wipe down. Just wipe off all the grease that I put on there. And I know some people won't like with how dirty my everything is here with all the mud and whatnot. It's all fine. It's all down to personal preference if you want to keep it sparkling, or if you're like me and you just kind of leave the mud sit. Just make sure you don't leave it sit on any important parts like your motor. ESC, I did leave some sit. It's best not to do that. Just try to keep your electronic parts cleaner. The wires doesn't matter as much because they're all enclosed already. But all your exposed parts, especially on these outrunner motors, make sure you leave it clean. Now you can reinstall your wheel nuts here. Make sure your pins are centered, otherwise your wheel nut won't go on or wheel hex won't go on as you just saw. And I like to take my wheel nuts and just thread them on even when my tires aren't on, just to keep those wheel hexes from falling off. Most of the time with the stock plastic ones, you won't have to worry about that as much. But because I'm running aftermarket brass ones, they do slide on and off very easily. And I don't want to risk losing one of those little axle pins, because they are very small and very easy to lose. And it causes a whole mess. And now we're going to head off to the front end here, which is going to be similar but not the same. And I will show you how to do that. Okay, and for your front axle here, you're going to want to start off by removing these two nuts. One on top, one on bottom. There's your bolts. And that'll make it so you're going to be able to remove your axle shaft. And these are a 1.5 millimeter. Most of every bolt on the Trxx4m is, which is very nice. But most bolts are also very, very small and very easy to lose. So it's very important that you have a special spot set aside so you do not lose them. And there we go. Now should be able to move your axle pins. You can see what I mean by they're very small and very easy to lose. You gotta make sure you set them off to the side in a spot where you cannot lose them. This one's pretty well stuck in there, so grab my trusty pliers, remove it. And you should be able just to slip your steering knuckle over your axle shaft here. And the axle shaft will just pull out. Yet again, you can see all the dirt and grease and grime in this CV joint, and that is very much not good for it. Now you just do the same thing over here. Yet again, you can also see a lot of mud and rust starting there. And yeah, be careful. There's some little pins in there. They do like to fall out. just like that, and they are not the most pleasant to get in there. Get back in. So if that were to happen, pull it out the rest of the way. Just slide it back in. And I like to keep some of these stock brass bushings around. Just slide it around there, just to hold that pin in place. Now if that's out, take your screwdriver, just feel these bearings. This one here does not feel the best. Just remove it, and you could double check it by sliding it onto these axles where they go. Push side pressure on there, and this is not spinning. So that bearing is no good anymore. And these ones you can just stick your finger in. This one is also seized. These ones are not very fun to get out. You might have to come over and get a little screwdriver. Very, very small flathead here. Then you can shove it back behind there. You gotta be very careful to not poke yourself. Once it starts coming out, just work it around so you don't severely deform your steering knuckle here, because then you might have to replace that. Just like that, it has been removed. And yet again, going here, you can feel it. This one is also not spinning. It is junk. Some people will run them like that. I prefer not to. Helps keep everything functioning proper. Feel that one spins good. Now you come over here and do the same thing on this other side. That bearing spins. That one also spins. And that one feels good too. So we got lucky on this side, not so much on this side with two seized bearings. Yet again, some people won't worry about it, but I like to keep them spinning freely to help keep unnecessary wear off all your parts in here. Now for your front axle, with this steering servo up here, I like to just remove it. So to come over here, take off this bolt, which will disconnect the shock and your lower link. Now you come over here and do the same thing to this other side. Gotta be careful not to strip it. You saw some rust fall out there. That is fine. It's a mud truck, it's gonna do that. Just inspect your bearing and make your bushing here. Make sure it spins. And if it does that, you're good. Double check both sides. And yet again, you gotta disconnect your drive shaft, which is one screw right here. Again, it's also a very small one. And you can see this drive shaft is covered in grease, which means that there was water in this front end as well. Now you get your drive shaft out of the way. You can come over here You have easy access to this top screw for these top links. You just remove that. Yeah, again, so far all of these screws have been a 1.5mm Allen. So good on Traxxas for that. And got that one removed. Now your steering servo will remain on there, connected by the wires. Just be careful to not damage your servo wires, otherwise your steering servo will not work anymore. And if you notice in here, both of these lower Allen heads have a bunch of mud in them. Those will probably strip out, so I like taking my little small flathead here, shove it in there, spin it around in there a little bit, just to help clear out the mud and keep your Allen from stripping. Now you can shove her on in and remove all four of these the same as you did on the rear end. Make sure you pull them out straight, otherwise you will be damaging your axle. 1 or 2 times like that, if not pull them out straight, will not damage your axle too badly, but if you continue to do it, you will expand all these bolt holes. Now you can remove your diff cover. You can see all that grease packed in there. This was slightly over greased last time, but that's okay, better too much than not enough. And you can see all the water that got in there. You can just remove both these gears, same as we did on the rear end. You can see this one's a lot cleaner. And just inspect your bearings. Both of them are good. Now you can take your paper towel, clean up the parts before you reinstall them. And there'll be a little bit of greasing by those bearings. Give it a little wipe off like that, it's not that important. You come over on your spur gear, a quick wipe down. Just feel your bearings, both those are good. And that can be reinstalled. Now you take your marine grease, little dab in there. Give her a little spin around. You just wipe off your differential cover. Reinstall it. And now installation is the reverse of teardown. Just take a screw. All 4 of them here. Slide them in. And tighten them all down. Okay, now you got that off. Easiest to just come over here, tip it outside, and just work one link at a time, so you're not trying to fight multiple at once. Makes life a lot easier and keeps the hobby enjoyable. Makes it so you don't procrastinate working on and maintaining your RC cars, which then helps keeps your costs low on unnecessary repairs. Will always be some, but a little bit of preventive maintenance goes a long way. Okay, if it doesn't quite want to slide in perfectly, just take it, and thread her on in. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This time I got lucky and it worked. There we go. And now time to reinstall the drive shaft. And because it was covered in grease, I am going to give her a wipe down. Just keep mud stuff from collecting on there. Remember, just like I said in the rear end, for the rear drive shaft, you have to make sure that your drive shaft is in sync. Otherwise, it will cause it to run rough and bind up ever so slightly every time it rotates, which is not good for your drive line. There's that. And now we'll take the screw, insert it in the drive shaft here, and snug her on down, just like that. Now you can come over here, get your lower link roughly where it goes, slide your shock over, and insert your screw. And thread her on in there, just like that. And just flip her on over and do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now that that's snug down, come over to this side where all of our bearings were good. Take one of your drive shafts, remove the little brass collar that was put on there. And then you are good to insert it back into its home. Take your steering knuckle and reinstall it. And if you noticed here, a little pin there slid out on me again. Finesse her back into its home. It slid down too far the other way. And there we go. Now you can reinstall all of your screws here on this side, preferably without dropping them. And these ones you want to leave just a wee bit loose so that everything rotates freely. If you notice here, my steering servo just broke off. Do not currently have one. In the video when I take this out mudding, I will replace it in the beginning, and I'll show you how to do all that. So I'm not going to worry about that today. And just thread all this on in. Just like that. Now I'll come over here. Remember, I did remove a few bearings from there. So we'll see if I have any proper ones to replace them with. It's always good to have a bearing kit on hand, just for little things like this. Got that new one slid in there, and I got another new bearing for in here. It's like that. She's all pretty, and it'll spin freely. I can take your other drive shaft, make sure it's set in all the way. The steering servo is causing me complications now. And this axle pin is also sliding out. Gotta very slightly tap it into where it goes and slide your collar over it. Slide your knuckle over it. Now you can install both of your knuckle bolts here. threader on in, make sure it's straight, otherwise you will be cross-threading. And I know they always say, you know, doesn't matter if it's cross-thread or Loctite, tight is tight. It does matter. Cross-thread will cause a lot of issues down the road for you. And it will damage the part you're threading into or your screw, depending if it's plastic or metal. There we go, just snug that up again. And just come through with a piece of paper towel. And give her all a quick wipe down before you reinstall everything. Just get all your greasy fingerprints off it. Now you're good to reinstall your axle pins, which there's a little hole right in here that they just slide on into. Just like that. Go ahead and do the other side. And there we go. There was a complete front and rear end service for a Trxx4m. Later on down the road, I will do a shock service and transmission service, but I've just recently done them, and it does not need that at this time. Get the tires reinstalled. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.